Recently, I've been really trying to see if there's anything I've missed in the Overwatch scene. You know, maybe heroes that are OP that nobody knows about, or heroes that are really bad, but everyone seems to be playing for no apparent reason. And among my searches, I've been comparing the Korean Overwatch hero win rates to the North America and Europe win rates for Overwatch, and it's actually pretty interesting to see that there are some heroes that perform much better and much worse in Korea than they do here in NA. And I'd like to see if we can maybe adopt some of these heroes and these strategies here, because Korean Overwatch is some of the best Overwatch. They have some really great teams and players over there, so let's see if we can learn from them. The first hero we're going to talk about today is Zarya. Now, I think a lot of people realize Zarya is in a pretty good state right now, but I don't think enough people realize how powerful she actually is, unless you're in Korea. In Korea, Zarya has a 50.1% win rate in competitive, compared to NA, where she only has a 48% win rate and is played not nearly as much. The 2% higher win rate in Korea is actually a lot bigger than you might think. 2% may not seem like a lot, but if you think about it, Zarya is only one member of a 6-person team. If one member of the team reduces your chances of winning by 2%, imagine what happens when other people pick heroes that also have lower win rates. It's a much bigger impact than some people might think. Now, this isn't actually as straightforward as you might think. Just because Zarya has the highest win rate among all the tanks in Korea doesn't mean she's actually the best tank there or anywhere. Zarya is the best tank at medium to lower ranks, and even sometimes in the mid to higher tier of tanks, because people, as you go down in ranks, don't know how to deal with her barriers or her damage or her in general. People just don't understand how to deal with a Zarya. As you go higher up, Zarya is easier to deal with. People know how to not shoot her barriers, how to deal with graviton surges, among other things, so Roadhog becomes the tank of choice. But for most players, for I'd say 95+% of players, Zarya is going to be your go-to tank. Unless you're in mid-masters, at least, Zarya is going to be the best tank for you, at least in Korea, which I do think we can learn from here. Up next on the list, we have Genji, which is interesting because there's a lot of controversy over whether or not Genji is actually good now. You have people that say, yeah, Genji is good again because there's less tanks, and you have other people that say he still needs some buffs. In Korea, I think Genji is pretty good. His win rate is below 50%, but most heroes are. His is still 1% higher in Korea than it is in NA. And I actually don't know how they gather the win rate statistics, because pretty much all heroes have a win rate below 50% on Master Overwatch and Overbuff, which to me doesn't seem to make sense statistically, but we'll ignore it for now. Genji's win rate is better in Korea by about 1%, which we've talked about is a pretty big number, but also there are a lot more Genji mains in the top 25 players in Korea than there are in NA. In NA, there are only 2 Genji mains in the top 25 slots. These are the best of the best players, and out of 25 of them, only 2 of them play Genji. In Korea, there are 5, which is a much bigger number. It's over 2 times as many Genji mains, and that's 1/5 of the players of the top tier that are playing him. So he's got to be pretty good at least. And you know, this is not the best sample size. I could go further down, but I have no way of doing that efficiently. There are more Genji mains in Korea. Like, if you go down the list, you see a lot more people, over 2 times as many, playing Genji. I'm just using the top 25 as an example because I can't make a huge sample size. I don't have time to compile all that data, but it does still hold true as you go further down the list. So Genji is not only more popular in Korea, but he also has a higher win rate, which I find interesting because our first pick was Zarya, and I find that Zarya and Genji synergize very well together. And given that Zarya's win rate is massively larger in Korea, it makes sense that Genji's is too. Other than that, I think the only other big or noticeable difference is McCree. McCree has a slightly higher win rate in Korea than in NA, and there are a few more McCree mains in those top 25 slots than there are in the NA top 25 slots as well. So it shows that, you know, they like the aspect of McCree being able to carry and outplay the enemy team with good aim and good positioning and whatnot, which can work a little bit better. But there are some heroes that I find interesting that aren't good in Korea, that aren't played nearly as much, and that are pretty bad in comparison to how they perform in NA. And the biggest 2 culprits have to be Junkrat and Torbjorn. Torbjorn in NA has almost a 49% win rate, which is actually really good. It's better than like Zarya in NA, and that's not bad at all. Torbjorn works in North America, but in Korea, oh boy, is it terrible. Torbjorn's win rate is 41%. That's almost 8% lower in Korea than it is in NA, which says one of two things. Either one, Koreans suck at Torbjorn, which I do not believe, or two, Korean Overwatch players know how to counter Torbjorn, and the same goes for Junkrat, who has a 47% win rate in the US, but only a 44.8% win rate in Korea. Not as big of a gap, but still a pretty big one. These gimmicky heroes seem to not work as well in Korea as they do in NA. Like the cheese strats, when you just try to surprise the enemy team with a comp that they might not be able to deal with in time, doesn't seem to work there nearly as well as it does here because Korean players know how to counter better. What's surprising is this even holds true for snipers. I expected Hanzo and Widowmaker to have higher win rates in Korea because in the top tier of players, like the top 500 players, there are a few more snipers in Korea than there are in NA. But overall, when you look at the statistics, snipers have a much lower win rate, and it's probably due to this gimmick factor, where snipers are very specific, very gimmicky, and if you know how to deal with them, you can definitely make your game easier, and Koreans know how to do that, so they're not going to be as effective. The reason I thought they'd be better is because of their high mechanical skill required, and we know they like mechanical heroes. Genji, Zarya, and McCree all being better in Korea really shows that they like their mechanics. They like being able to aim and outplay, which these snipers actually can do. But I guess they're just too gimmicky to really be used, so they're not going to be. Hopefully this video was interesting or informative to you all. It's not that long because there aren't that many Overwatch heroes, and I don't want to just drag this out by talking about all of them. So hopefully this was helpful to you. If it was, be sure to click the video on screen, and then click the video at the end of that video, and then, you know, do the same thing on the next one, and just watch my videos forever. Just like until you're out of videos. Just watch all of them. I'm sure it'd be a good use of time. Anyway, I'll see you guys all later. Have a good one. Lone Hawk out.